In today's news, will schools remain closed until October 31st?
Former Education Minister Myron Walwyn makes suggestions for the reopening of schools in the BVI, and DDM warns of active hurricane season. These and more stories when 284 News returns.
There's a reason you get up on a morning. A reason you pick yourself up, start the day. Maybe it's sheer grit. Maybe it's your ethics. Maybe it's because you know people like you are waiting for people just like you. We all have our reasons, and for Republic Bank, that reason is you. Every little thing, every big thing. It's all about making a difference in your life. Because after 182 years, if it's one thing we're sure about, is that the difference is you. We're here to help.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Welcome everybody. It's Thursday, August 6, 2020, a terrific day coming straight out of nature's little secrets in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. I'm Ron Grant.
And of course, I am Kyla Kenesha Forbes. Yet another edition of 284 News. Ron, we've just came off of a very long weekend. It was our emancipation holidays. How was it for you?
It was wonderful. It was restful. Spent a lot of time with the wife and family, and that's all we can do. Spent a lot of time just relaxing and taking in a lot of sights and sounds of the Virgin Islands, and of course hitting up a lot of the night spots. We had a lot going on. Hit some house parties as well, so all in all. And of course working nonstop.
But of course, Ron, I think this is one of the quieter festivals that we'll have here in the British Virgin Islands, but we do have a lot in store for our viewers today. So kicking off the newscast now on August 1st, over the holidays, the Minister of Health and Social Development, Honorable Carvin Malone, signed the Public Health COVID-19 Control and Suppression Measures Order number 4. This new order introduced a range of restrictions, rules, guidelines, and penalties that will guide the BVI public as we navigate through this global pandemic. Now, of course, the purpose of this order is to protect the public's health and to prevent, control, and suppress the spread of COVID-19 here in the British Virgin Islands. But Ron, if we can just stop for a second, I'd like to point out clause number 5 within the order, which states, and I quote, "All schools shall be closed and all school-related extracurricular activities shall be discontinued." End quote. Now, this order will be in effect until October 31st, 2020. Therefore, meaning that schools can remain closed until this date. Now, some exceptions to the closure of schools are teachers are still permitted to access their respective schools to access resources for the main purpose of engaging in online learning. Also, senior students are also permitted to access schools for the purpose of preparing for standardized exams such as school leaving, CXCs, etc. Now, all persons accessing schools are to abide by social distancing and sanitation protocols outlined in this specific order. But Ron, of course, when the news first hit on the unlikely reopening of schools this upcoming September, many persons were displeased with this decision. Now, some concerns were raised by the public, and some of them were, firstly, how long will this school closure go on? Secondly, are there any concerns regarding our children's mental and emotional health? And are we taking into account the effects that this change can cause to their health and their development? Also, are children getting the proper attention and care with, parents trying their best to assist while also working from home? And lastly, will employers, especially private employers, continue to be understanding and patient towards parents as they continue to homeschool their children? Now, Ron, these are all valid concerns.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think at the end of the day, parents and guardians are fully concerned about the well-being of their children. Most importantly, we of course had a live with the Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Natalia Wheatley, today, where he was able to clarify quite a bit of points. Some of those points stating that summer programs and summer school they're continued to allow to be open. One of the things that he said was there was a mistake or an error of some sort in the order, and that was omitted. But I think wholeheartedly, one of the things that we see is that communication, which we work in the field of communication, is extremely vital and important. And I think when it comes to these types of messages at such sensitive and pivotal points, it is important that all cabinet members be on the same page. And I don't think we're seeing that locally here in the Virgin Islands at present.
I do agree, Ron. That live was at 2 o'clock this afternoon with our fellow reporter, Javon Wilson.
Yes.
So if you haven't caught that, you definitely want to catch up on that. But as you said, the minister was basically speaking. He also said that cabinet decision will really and truly rule when school will be reopening. And now we see the closure within the public health order, but it is only until cabinet makes a decision. But I think, Ron, as you said, I think we're seeing some the messages are a bit mixed.
They're misconstrued and they're not consistent. Yeah.
They're definitely not consistent. We'll love to know what is really happening, because when it comes to the children of our territory, we must be sure our children have been out of schools for quite some time now, and I'm sure parents and as well students and teachers really would like to know what their fate looks like for the upcoming fall semester.
Indeed, one of the things that comes to mind, Kyla, as it pertains to this particular time of year, obviously we're in summer, but a lot of students who are now going into high school in different grades, there's a tradition, not only in the BVI, but regionally as well, where parents go out and purchase uniforms.
Yeah.
It's a very exciting time. So I think mentally and physically it's an adjustment for us, but at the end of the day, I think it's important that the communication is there so that persons at least know what they're working with. And one of the things that I realize, which is kind of disheartening, we've heard from the leader of the opposition, and as well we're going to segue into another story, but the messages seem to switch every time there's an additional case. And it's important that we understand that we can no longer exempt ourselves from the rest of the world. Yes, we're blessed to have had a minimal level of cases of coronavirus here in the Virgin Islands. However, we still cannot continue to do business as usual where we seemingly are cutting ourselves out of the rest of the world. We have to get to a point where we're beginning to normalize our situations, and I think that's what persons are looking forward to most importantly.
Most definitely.
Now, continuing on the same matter of schools, many persons here in the Virgin Islands joined in the conversation once the order, which Kyla just spoke about, came out. One of those persons being, in a recent Facebook post, former Minister of Education and Culture Myron V. Walwyn, who is also a businessman, shared his thoughts on COVID-19 and the reopening of schools in the BVI. He wrote, and I quote, "Managing the issues caused by COVID-19 is not easy for any country. I do, however, believe that while following all the safety precaution advanced by the experts, each country has to make decisions that affects its population based on the evidence and information that exists within the particular country. What might be necessary in the US or the UK or even in certain parts of the Caribbean might not be necessary here in the BVI because the magnitude of the effects might be different. Each country will have its own nuances. We've heard of one new case of COVID-19, which from the information provided, the situation is contained and the necessary precautions are in place to keep it that way. It begs the question as to why it is necessary to keep schools in the BVI closed until October 31st. While online learning will provide some assistance, it is woefully inadequate for the current needs of most of our students from grades K through 12. A blended approach of traditional instructions supplemented by the online contact will better serve our students. A shift system, he said, similar to what was done after Irma, can be implemented to give students the support that they need while ensuring that the social distancing protocols and rules are strictly followed. We must, of course, provide extensive training to the Education Ministry personnel to ensure proper supervision of these schools to prevent the spread of COVID-19 among the students and the faculty. It can be done. Here are just a few of my concerns with an entirely online learning approach. First, he said, students most often do not get full attention, if any, to the online lessons. They are very often distracted by other things that they find more entertaining. Secondly, he said a significant portion of the work given to students is done by parents and other family members and not by the students. This doesn't happen in every household, but it happens in many. Special needs students and students with other learning difficulties will be at a severe disadvantage. These students need to be reached by teachers who are trained to handle their individual circumstances. This service most likely is not available at home. He continued by saying the internet service is not reliable, and we know it. Teachers, I'm sure, will now be asked to use their personal internet to deliver classes. Some may have a problem with that, but others may not. Accessibility to computer devices, particularly by families who cannot afford to provide them to their children, may be an issue for some. Parents must also go to work to make a living and contribute to the development of the country, in addition to providing an education for our children. Social providers, or socially, schools provide a place of safe keeping for children while their parents are at work. This current COVID-19 situation should be a teachable moment for our young people. The protocols that will be put in place in the school environment will make them understand the seriousness of this disease and the importance of adhering to the rules and protocols that will put in place for our protection. Currently, many of our students who are left at home are not adhering to the social distancing protocols, are not wearing masks or sanitizing the way they should. What will become of students who have next to no family support mechanism? I believe that the private institutions should be allowed to operate. They should, of course, follow the protocols and should be monitored in the same manner as the public institutions. The private schools usually have smaller numbers and can be better manage the social distancing protocols that the public schools, which have larger numbers. This is in no way, he closed by saying, this is in no way a criticism for the work being done by the government, and I wish for it not to be viewed in that light. I think that more thought should be given to this and other policy positions being taken. This, of course, statement was via Facebook by the former Minister of Education, Myron Walwyn. And of course, Kyla, in keeping with the conversation about the reopening of schools, once this statement came out, many persons had mixed emotions, but there are some valid points in there, some actually, which I think the present Minister of Education, Dr. Natalia Wheatley, actually alluded to in the press conference today, speaking about the shift system, which we saw being implemented by the former administration in dealing with the aftermath of Hurricanes Irma and Maria.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think what we again have to consider is somewhat of a mixed approach, but here we see the former Minister of Education who served, I believe, for 2 terms in that capacity, now weighing in on the conversation and giving his feedback and suggestions.
Ron, at the end of the day, I think in the times that we're in, very unprecedented, of course it is not easy for any government to deal with the situation because we have not dealt with it before, but I love when other and former politicians weigh in on the conversation. I don't think that this should be looked upon in a negative light because I think all heads should be put together to really and truly make everything work. As you said, the Honorable Natalia Wheatley also mentioned some of these same mechanisms in his interview. I do think it is a bit sad that we only hear about these things when suggestions are made outside of the government, and then the government says, hey, well, this is something that we have been thinking about, and not saying not, but I do think that the government needs to have conversations about this a whole lot more, because as we were saying before in the former story about the order, if the minister did not have this interview here on 284 Media this afternoon, many parents would have gone into September thinking that school will not be opened until October. So we're definitely asking for some communication because planning is key. We do understand that we are in unprecedented times, but we have to consider all persons involved, teachers, students, parents, everyone.
Most definitely, and I think again, Kyla, one of the things that is kind of puzzling based on the word on the street and word on the ground here in the Virgin Islands is that the rules are written in pencil, or they seem to be written in pencil, and the goalpost often switches. So persons, especially when it comes to the matters of schools and children, are getting a little bit agitated as it pertains to what they should be working towards. But again, we see where suggestions are coming in from all different persons, and I want to encourage the general populace, the members, particularly the members of the electorate, but also residents who live among us, to continue to push the narrative. Here at 284 Media, we do our best to do our very best and ask the tough questions, but it's very important that residents continue to ask the questions as well, and persons within the community who have training and experience, they continue to lend their ears. It doesn't mean that it's going to be done. Again, this is decisions are made, like the minister said, on a cabinet basis, but at least as residents and members of the electorate, we can continue to share our concerns and wish the government the very best, because at the end of the day, their success is our success, or their failure is our failure.
I agree.
Now, still ahead, ladies and gentlemen, CIBC First Caribbean seeking COVID-19 unsung heroes from across the region, and St. Vincent case that caused Just Van Dyke lockdown confirms to be actually negative. All this and more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Viewers, welcome back. You're watching 284 News. I'm Ron Grant. Now, communities across the region have a unique opportunity to hail those special heroes who, in the darkest moments of the COVID-19 crisis, shone brightest. Regional bank CIBC First Caribbean recently launched its First Caribbean Unsung Frontline Heroes initiative, aimed at giving persons the opportunity to nominate essential workers and persons from their communities who put service above self and reached out to others in a variety of ways during the COVID-19 crisis. We have been awed and humbled by the many stories of heroism and selflessness displayed across the many villages and towns, as medical professionals and little children with piggy banks all rallied to help and to give those impacted by the pandemic, said Chief Executive Officer of CIBC First Caribbean and Chair of the First Caribbean Trust Foundation, Colette Delani. Now, she noted that the First Caribbean Unsung Frontline Heroes Awards was an initiative of the First Caribbean Trust Foundation aimed at recognizing the outstanding work of individuals across the region who have been at the front line of the COVID-19 pandemic fight. To be nominated, persons must be a resident in any of the 16 territories where the CIBC First Caribbean operates and have worked, volunteered, or been involved in any of the award categories that I'm going to list before. They could be medical professionals, someone in the protective services, community heroes, individuals who by their courageous acts, strength, and self-sacrifice in the service of a community have made a difference to those persons impacted. Now, to nominate a candidate for an award, persons must log on to the website, which is cibcfirstcaribbean.com/aboutus/community-relations/unsung frontline heroes. Now, Kyla, a very awe-inspiring initiative. Too often, we hear the word essential workers, and you and I know very often what that means. It means that you are on call 24/7, serving the general public. In our capacity, we keep them informed. However, we have persons who literally continue to put their lives at risk, whether it be medical professionals, persons within the law enforcement. And I think this initiative by CIBC is quite awe-inspiring. I think it's tremendous, and I do hope that persons across the region, particularly here in the BVI, would see it fit to nominate some persons that they think have served them in this capacity. We have a similar program, which the government of the Virgin Islands did in awarding government departments and civil servants for their work during COVID-19. But I think this is an example of a regional reach, and we are most grateful to CIBC for coming up with this initiative.
I agree with you. I think essential workers cannot, especially in these times, Ron, cannot be thanked enough. Being out, when persons are being out and serving your community, leaving your family, your friends behind as you work and serve your community. So I definitely love this initiative, as you said now.
And essentially, too, persons who are in these fields essentially are putting their own family at risk. I'm not sure if the time will permit, but there's a story that we're going to get to where we see where persons who don't understand particularly the importance of social distancing are now putting residents or relatives, at risk. But to provide some more information on the nominee and upload a photo of them, that's if you want to nominate someone for this category. Persons can make multiple nominations but can only nominate a candidate who resides in their country of residence. So Virgin Islanders, anyone who has served you in this capacity, feel free to support and nominate them.
Most definitely. Now, Ron, as we move on to this other story, we may remember back in July, Honorable Carvin Malone, Minister of Health and Social Development, announced that a patient which traveled to St. Vincent and the Grenadines from the British Virgin Islands on July 15, 2020, tested positive for COVID-19. Now, the patient was tracked back to the island of Jos Van Dyke. Now, this revelation caused a rippling effect, causing the residents of Jos Van Dyke to be put under lockdown conditions and testing for COVID-19. And Ron, if we might go back to when we were all on lockdown, we know that this was not a great feeling. But in a live press conference held on the 1st of August, Honorable Carvin Malone announced that the government of the Virgin Islands has received confirmation from St. Vincent and the Grenadines that after the second set of testing from Capra, the test results of the patient related to the Jos Van Dyke incident have now been reported as negative. Now, Honorable Malone said that due to the delay in receiving this news, he still believed that the actions taken were necessary as a preventative measure, although the tests have now returned negative. He said, and I quote, "We are very extremely pleased with the results, and because of the extended period of time in receiving the official notification, we remain confident that the preempt steps taken were required to prevent community spread had the final results proven different." The lockdown of Jos Van Dyke frustrated many residents, Ron, and the government was met with some resistance after the implementation of the lockdown and the testing conditions. The lockdown caused many businesses to close for a number of days, and also we over here on Tortola was unable to go over to the beautiful beaches over on Jos Van Dyke. Now, he continued by empathizing with the residents of Jos Van Dyke. He continued, and I quote, "We empathize with the businesses and residents of Jos Van Dyke for the economic and social disturbances caused as a result of the lockdown. We thank everyone for coming out to be tested to ensure that all of us remain safe and healthy," end quote. Ron, I think the people over in Jos Van Dyke may be happy to hear about this, but maybe also a bit frustrated. But as the minister said, with the delay in receiving these second sets of tests, the government had to do what they had to do to ensure that there was no community spread.
His points are quite valid, Kyla, in the essence of precaution and trying to make sure that persons are safe. I get where the approach came from. It's a little bit daunting that it takes that long for an exact negative test to come out, but nevertheless, that seems to be what's taking place. One of the things that I find very interesting about this particular story and the resident on Just Van Dyke, as well as our sister islands of Virgin Gorda, particularly Just Van Dyke, though, what I think the government of the Virgin Islands is avoiding, and they're not particularly admitting, is that our border protection here in the Virgin Islands is not what it should be. We are speaking about borders being closed. We're speaking about persons not being able to travel. We're putting bans on exemption and work permit holders.
Right.
But what we're failing, the government is failing to admit, is that our borders are not as secure as they say to be. For example, taking Just Van Dyke, every Sunday it is no secret that the St. Thomians, the Puerto Ricans come out in numbers on their boats to frolic and fet in White Bay, Just Van Dyke.
Yeah.
And all of them might not particularly be coming off of the boat. But when you speak about border protection, this is not a light issue, and you have to not ignore the fact that this is not what it should be. Once we got into the situation of COVID-19, the government of the Virgin Islands did something very remarkable by joining forces. So HM Customs, Boat Security, Border Patrol, they joined in one cohesion with the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. And at the initial sound of it, it sounded like a brilliant idea, because what that simply means is that our law enforcement, not only on land but sea, would be strengthened. Right. Obviously, this is not happening. When you have police officers on Just Van Dyke or customs officers, HM Customs, who are supposed to be working, and these types of things still happen,
right.
It's daunting, and it's aggravating, and it's annoying as a member of the electorate that we're letting these little incidents slide by. And at the end of the day, we're still locking down the country, and we're still saying that we are putting these measures in place. That measure, that simple measure of Border Patrol, is perhaps one of the most important that we should be paying attention to.
I think that's a great point, Ron. Now, viewers, still ahead, BVI confirms 9th COVID-19 case as the USVI records their 9th COVID-19 death. All this and so much more when 284 News returns.
Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media at cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Now, the Minister of Health and Social Development, Honorable Carvin Malone, announced in a live press conference that as of Friday, 31st July, the BVI has recorded an additional COVID-19 case, bringing our territory's total to 9. It was revealed that the territory's newest case was imported. The patient recently returned to the BVI and has been in quarantine in a government-controlled quarantine facility since their arrival. It was reported that the patient has only exhibited mild symptoms of the virus, and they will remain in isolation until full recovery. The minister confirmed that as of Thursday, 30th July, the BVI has tested a total of 1,522 persons for the COVID-19 virus. The territory has confirmed 9 positive cases to date and 1 unfortunate COVID-19 related death. Now, Ron, Minister Malone said in that same press conference that it was actually 77 days between case number 8 and case number 9, between the confirmation of both of them. And that basically makes 10 weeks since our last case prior to this latest one. And I think what our government and our leaders continue to say about we are not out of the woods yet, I think this revelation definitely demonstrates this.
Absolutely, and that statement, we've heard it many times, we're not out of the woods, and that's absolutely true. We are still grateful, we're still thankful that the cases contrary to that of the U.S. Virgin Islands, our neighboring USVI and other regional countries is still limited, and we continue to do our best in contracting and contracting information and spreading information and really being conscious and really taking our individual health at a very serious consideration.
I do agree, Ron.
Now, one of the things, go ahead.
Go ahead, don't you?
One of the things that I think is important as it pertains to this particular case, which was recently announced, is that it was an imported case. And one of the things that we have to realize is that with the continuation of the reopening of the borders, these are things that we're going to have to pay attention to as it pertains to our security. We can't be scared, we just have to try to be secured. We have so much more in store for you guys, but unfortunately we are out of time. But we'll be back tomorrow bringing you all the details regionally, locally, regionally, and internationally. I'm Ron Grant.
And I am Kyla Kenesha Forbes. Have a great evening, everyone.
Happy Thursday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.